Don't live a half life. Don't die a half death. This was the status upload I saw from a friend, my WhatsApp contact, and it read, "Don't live a half life. Don't die a half death." Then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a minute. Wow, this is deep. Then I went on to do some research, to try to see the origin of that statement. And I found out that it was actually a quote, it was coined from a quote by Khalil Gibran. And the full quote is, "Do not live half a life and do not die a half death. You are a whole that exists to live a life, not half a life." And it got me thinking about what fully existing really means, especially when it comes to living a life. It got me thinking, how exactly can people live a whole life? I mean, how do you live a full life and not half of it? Okay, so in this video, we would be looking at why fully existing is one of the greatest acts of courage in respect to living a full life and not dying a half death. So I take the title again. Don't live a half life and don't die a half death. Now, when it comes to living, it's one thing to exist and it's another thing to live. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about this many times. There's a difference between living and existing. Now, when you exist, you you are known, you are seen, you function, you are there, you are just there. But when you live, it's not just about the perception of others about you. Living is a form of fulfillment. So when you exist, people see you. That is the interface, that people get to interact with. But when you live, it is an internal thing. It is something that comes from within. That is the part where you, as a person, become fulfilled. And it's not easy to fully exist or to live. It's actually not easy because it requires quite a lot of courage, to live. It requires some level of courage. Now, don't die a half death. It's one thing to live and to live fully, and it's another thing to die partially. Um, Now, there is a weight of an unlived life, right? And that weight is um, often projected as a burden. Now, when you live a life and you don't live that life fully, it becomes a weight, it becomes a burden, you know, and that burden is something you begin to carry. A lot of people carry this burden for years, some for almost half of their entire life. Because it's one thing to miss out on opportunities. It's one thing to have some things you want to do, but you choose not to do them because maybe you're scared, you're afraid, you know, and you don't get to live fully. That is not a good thing. That is not a good thing at all. Um, so the weight of an unlived life is the greatest burden one can carry, because at some point in life you begin to have some form of regret. You begin to look back and you see things you could have done, activities you could have partook or you could have been a part of, activities you could have taken part of, rather, friends you could have had time with, things you could have tried, meals you could have tasted, places you could have been to, even though you had the money. Um, and then you begin to see people regret most times. I mean, I've heard this from many people, um, especially people that have spent time with dying loved ones, or people at the last minute, just before they pass on. And especially for those who are somehow, elderly, they begin to regret, many of them, not all, but many of them begin to regret things. And usually the regrets most of them have are not really associated with what they did, but with what they didn't do. Now imagine someone regretting what they could have done but did not do. I mean, that's a weight. It's a weight of unlived life. And the weight of unlived life is actually the greatest burden one can carry. Trust me, you don't want to carry it, because you will not be able to find out what could have been. That's not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be. And many people are actually physically alive, of course, but internally they are absent. So it's one thing to be alive physically. It's one thing for you to exist, for people to see you, for people to interact with you. And it's another thing to be present, internally. Because when it comes to living, it's not something you project out for people to see. Living is something that reflects inwardly. It's more like you taking a look at yourself. So the first person who gets to know whether or not you are alive is you. You are the one who knows. You are the one who feels. You are the one who gets to partake in the joy of living, and you just don't want to exist alone. I feel so emotional right now. I feel so emotional because I've had to interact with people who, at various points in their lives, have had to let go of things they love, of um, of things they enjoy doing. Not necessarily because it's bad, but because at some point they turn the switch off, and that's not something you want to do. It's not something you want to do. For some people, it's from a place of sacrifice, right? You grow into certain responsibilities, and because you feel obligated to to fulfill those responsibilities, sometimes you turn off some switches, and you find yourself missing out of things. So activities you could have gained a lot from, you don't do them. Places you could have been to, you don't go there. Friends you could have, spent time with, you don't. And a lot of things you could have done, nice stuff, things that will make you happy, things that will make you feel fulfilled. You don't do them just because you're making sacrifices, you know. Yeah, it's good to make sacrifices. It's good to have loved ones. It's good to be there for people, but at what expense? At what expense? At what point do you make certain sacrifices and say, okay, at this point, I'll take a break, or at this point, I won't go further? Because if you push beyond certain limits, automatically you turn off some switch. You deny yourself of some things that you should, normally have enjoyed, especially when it comes to living. Be present for yourself. Be present. Now, just to emphasize, existing is not the same as living. Now, it's one thing to exist, it's another thing to live. But true aliveness requires presence. It's not just a pulse. It's not something that just it's not just the fact that oh you have a pulse, your heart is pumping blood, your lungs are exchanging gases, your nostrils are taking in and pushing out air. No, being alive requires presence. It requires you to be internally aware and internally there for yourself. In fact, the most interesting aspect of living is the aspect of you being present. And this is not just about being present for people or showing up for people, but showing up for yourself. When was the last time you did something you really wanted to do? When was the last time you felt like doing something good, something healthy, something nice, something that would make you feel happy, but you choose not to? When was the last time you actually went through to do something you really wanted to do? When was the last time you had fun? When was the last time you were happy? When was the last time you lived a life that made you feel fulfilled and not just a form of load? You have to carry the load of Mr. A and the load of Mrs. B and pack everything and put on your own head. Ah, God, it's so frustrating when you have so much weight on your head, on your shoulders, on your neck, and you forget the most important person, you. The most important person is you. This is not from a place of selfishness, but from the place of knowing that it is when you are okay that you can help others become okay. Um, I watched a podcast recently. I mean, it's been a while. The Classified podcast, hosted by Apostle Femi Lazarus, and he invited Femi Adesina on the podcast, and they were having a conversation about making sacrifices for people, especially when it seems to be detrimental to early stage growth. You're just starting life and you're pouring so much into other people, neglecting yourself. You're not developing yourself, you're not investing so much in yourself, you're not able to gather things for yourself. But I mean, additional said something about you not pouring from an empty cup, right? So if you have a cup that is half full and you're pouring from that half filled cup, whichever container you're pouring into, even if it's the same size, it's really not going to have more than the cup's content. You can't pour from an empty cup, can you? So why not try as much as possible to fill up your cup, so much so that the other containers can get to benefit from the overflow of it. Now that is how you live. That is how you find fulfillment in helping people. Now, if you have 5,000 naira last card on you and you have a debt of maybe 30,000 naira, and the creditor is on your neck and you've not eaten, you still need to sort out food and all, and someone says they need help with 50,000 naira and you have 5,000 naira, do you go to somewhere else to borrow 45,000 naira and add to your 5,000 naira to give the person 50,000 naira? I mean, is there a form of wisdom in that at all? So, how exactly do you live life in such a way that you not only get yourself sorted out, but you are also able to reach out to other people, to assist other people. Now, you can do good to people from a place of fulfillment. I'm not talking about from a place of convenience, you know, but from a place of fulfillment. When you do it, you're fulfilled doing it. You're not frustrated. There's a way you do good that you feel frustrated doing good, mostly because you're putting so much attention on helping other people and not focusing on yourself. So being alive actually requires you to show up for yourself. It requires you to be present for yourself. And the thing is, if you're gonna be here, you should be here fully. Be here fully. If you're gonna be here, be here. Um, you have to commit to yourself. You have to commit to presence. You have to commit to being there for yourself. If you're gonna show up for yourself, show up well, show up fully. Um, don't be here and not really here. No, don't be here and not really here. You can't show up for yourself like some other person is coming to help you show up for you. You should take ownership of your life. You should understand that your destiny, as much as you believe in God, has been delivered to your hands. You get to play a very important role in writing how your story would end up. And if you're not there to write the story, who will? If you're not there to till your land, where will the harvest come from? If you're not there to be there for yourself, who will? I mean, even if any other person would show up for you, they won't show up for you at the expense of their own life, right? So why not just try as much as you can to live? Why not just try as much as you can? I feel so emotional right now because I'm thinking and I'm seeing a lot of people who have put themselves through this, and it becomes difficult trying to get them to see the need for them to really live for themselves first to be able to help others live. You can't be messiah for everybody. You know, all this messiah syndrome will carry up and down. It's not really going to help us in the long run. Be there for yourself. Now, there's something I call the half-life cycle. The half-life cycle. And I break it down into five levels. You know, it's a cycle. So the first part of it is fear. Why do people live a half life? The first thing that comes to mind is fear. A lot of people are scared to commit to things, scared to commit to relationships, scared to commit to accountability, to friendships, scared to commit to big projects, life changing projects, scared to take risks. You know, a lot of people are scared, and that's why fear is the very first thing that comes to mind in the half life cycle. You know, and because of that fear, you move to the next, which is emotional protection. Because you're scared, you build a wall, you know, around yourself. You build a wall that shields you from feeling. You choose not to feel. You numb your feelings, you numb your emotions. You can be happy, but you choose not to be happy. You're at an event, people are saying things, you know, having fun, interacting with each other, learning from each other. It's a social event, for instance, and you're just there, gloomy, sitting somewhere all by yourself. It is not something you want to do. And this comes from a place of fear. It comes from this emotional protection, the walls you've built, over yourself from the place of fear. And because you've built so high a wall around yourself to shield yourself from feeling, you disengage. You find yourself disengaging with people. You find that you're not really able to connect. You're not able to connect with your friends. You're not really able to connect with your partners. You're not really able to connect with your loved ones. You're not really able to engage people. You're supposed to have conversations with people. You can't really have conversations. You can't have deep conversations with people. You can't connect. You can't because of that wall. In fact, people find it difficult to reach out to you because they really can't tell what version of you they would meet. And you become someone like, you seem to have different moods, mood swings. You become like a bipolar person. And you have like, no, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. But that's a phase, right? That's a part of the cycle. So the first is the fear, the second is emotional protection, and then disengagement, which is the third. And because of that disengagement, you find suppression coming in. You suppress your joy, you suppress your excitement, you suppress and suppress and suppress. You're not even able to celebrate your little wins. Those wins that you've been able to accumulate, you're not even able to appreciate, you know, even God for how far you've come. You're not able to celebrate yourself. You're not able to reward yourself for the discipline, for the effort, for the commitment, and whatever it is you've put in. You're not able to. You suppress everything. You suppress your feelings, you suppress your emotion, you suppress your joy, your pain, you suppress everything. To what end? Just because you are scared, and it all begins with fear. In fact, some people feel so scared that they can't share things with people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You should be careful. Yeah, you shouldn't tell everybody your secrets, right? Or spill everything to people. But when you have people that are close to you, sometimes just choose to be vulnerable. Sometimes just choose to be vulnerable around the people that you care about and those who you perceive or know that they care about you. Don't suppress everything. You're sad, you're teary, you feel so bad, you're upset, you're hurt, and you suppress it. You suppress your anger, you suppress your sadness, you suppress everything, including your peace, including your happiness, including everything. You suppress it. Why? Why? Chief suppressor. Why? Now, the last part of the cycle is internal emptiness. Because you tell me, how do you suppress everything and feel fulfilled? How do you suppress all your emotions and not have a void? There will be that emptiness within you, whether you like it or not. The emptiness will be there. In fact, you can't control it. At that point, it takes a lot to pull you out of that state. So when you go through it from fear to emotional protection to disengagement to suppression and then to emptiness, then you really begin to understand that it starts with fear. And fear does not come from the outside environment. Fear begins internally. You choose to fear. You choose to fear. Fear begins with you. So if you decide not to fear, then nothing would really scare you. There's a place for caution, but then there's also fear. Fear makes you numb. Fear keeps you grounded, holds you back, prevents you from trying new things, from living life. It's different from caution. You don't want to be scared of living, do you? No. So it all begins with fear. And if you allow fear to rule you, you live a life that is not fulfilled. Now, how do you break out of this? The most important thing is courage. Look, living requires courage. It takes more than wishes and existence to live. Living is an intentional thing. You live because you want to live. You live intentionally. You live because you want to. And to really want to live and to actually go ahead to live requires courage because it will make you do things that ordinarily you would be scared to do. So there is a framework, I call it the courage framework, right? And it has about 6 phases, right? It comes in phases. The courage framework. The first thing there is feel. When it comes to being courageous and living, you have to allow yourself to feel. You need to feel. Remember all those walls you've built around yourself. Bring them down. The suppression you had, don't suppress your feelings. Okay, so it begins with allowing yourself to feel. Allow yourself to feel happy. Allow yourself to feel sad. Allow yourself to feel, you know, pain. Allow yourself to feel, you know, that is where it starts with. So when you feel or when you are able to feel, then you can move to the next phase, which is risk. Now, you now begin to intentionally allow yourself to take risks. Okay, it's okay to take risks. Allow yourself to take risks. Not everybody can take risk. Not everybody can, but when you choose to take risks, you now really see yourself in a different light because at that point, first you've allowed yourself to start feeling. The next is you now know that okay, because I can feel, let me try to put myself in this spot. I want to do this. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to see how it goes. And that takes us to the next phase, which is fail. So failure is you saying, let me find out how not to do this or how this is done. So you fail, then you take risk, and then you fail. Yeah, failure is a part of life. A lot of the people who have recorded success in life have gone through different levels and phases of failure. Failure teaches you things. Failure teaches you lessons. Failure teaches you how not to do things. Failure should not be something you run away from. Failure should be something you expect. You don't hope for it, you don't work towards it, but you keep an open mind just in case it comes. You're ready. You prepare yourself mentally for failure, not because you expect to fail, but because you know that if you don't get it right, you will fail. And if you fail, then you know how best to show up the next time. So you fail, you take risks, you allow yourself to fail, and then you learn. So that's the fourth phase, learn. Failure goes, you know, hand in hand with learning. When you fail, you learn. That's how to really learn. In fact, I've a lot of people often say this. I've forgotten who made the quote or was making a statement when he was talking about failing forward. When you fail forward. Don't fail backward. When you fail forward, what it means is you try to do something. Let's say you try to run a business and you do this and that and you fail. Failing forward means you learn from your mistakes. Oh, what did I do wrong? At what point did I miss it? You go back to research why you failed. that is you failing forward, because the next time you are in that position, or you have to deal with similar challenges, you wouldn't really make the same decisions, right? Because at this point you failed forward. But if you do not take time to review, you do not take time to figure out why you fail, you might most likely repeat the same thing, and that is you failing backward. So you really don't want to put yourself in that spot where you fail and you have nothing to learn from it. So that's not a good place to be. And when you learn, you expand. So learning is like, of course, knowledge being poured into you. And when you pour water in an elastic container or an elastic vessel, what it does is it expands. So learning helps you stretch. Learning helps you expand, right? That's what you want to do with learning. So you feel, you take risks, you fail, you learn, you expand, and then the last part, which is the goal, basically, is to become. Okay. When you've gone through these phases, out of courage, at the end, you become. You become. And becoming really is not a final destination. Becoming is a phase, it's a process. Because when you climb up to a point, you climb up to certain heights, you really begin to see, you begin to see other heights that you could step into. Um, there's something we call the full existence model, right? I'll take it real brief. It's a summation of some aspects of life, some key elements of life that would help you live fully. So the first thing is faith. So when you add faith with courage and vulnerability and purpose and expression, you live fully, you become fully alive. You have faith. You know there's something bigger than you, there's someone bigger than you. You believe in God. You have faith in something more than, something beyond yourself. So when you believe in God, you're courageous to take on those tasks, those challenges, to make some risks, take some risks. Then you allow yourself to be vulnerable. You have a relationship, you allow yourself to be vulnerable with your partner. You talk to your partner, pour out yourself, allow that vulnerability. Then you have a purpose why you're here on earth. You begin to walk in line with your purpose. You begin to do things that align you with your purpose, the reason for your existence. You begin to intentionally take actions that drive you closer to your purpose every single day. And then the next is expression. You express yourself, you express your gifts, express your talents, express your abilities. You don't cower, you don't shy away from responsibilities, you don't lock yourself up when responsibilities come knocking. You express. Now, when you sum all this together, faith, courage, vulnerability, purpose, and expression, you become fully alive. Now, it's important to know that life is temporary. I mean, nobody lives on earth forever. Life is temporary. But while you're here, make sure you love fully, make sure you build boldly, and make sure you exist deeply. Now, when I say love fully, the most important aspect of loving, when it comes to living a full life, is vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is that bridge to depth, is that bridge that allows you to access the depth of a person and allows someone else to access the depth of you. So vulnerability is the bridge to depth, and you really need to remove the armor. You know, when you love, remove that armor, remove it, and engage with the heart. Love with your heart, not your brain. When you really want to love fully, you love with your heart. not your brain. You allow yourself. In fact, there are times when you know this person is, you know, I mean, being human, but you choose to love. You choose to love. It sounds crazy sometimes, but sometimes you allow yourself to be played. I mean, yeah, it happens. You see through some of this small screen and all, but you still allow yourself to go through it. It's part of living. So you love fully. I'm not saying you should be stupid, um, but you can be vulnerable when you find the right people, the right person, the right network, the right friends, the right lover. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Now, when you build, you should build boldly. Okay. Um, when you're creating things, call it a business, call it anything, you should create with legacy, the intent of legacy. So you create with the intention that look, I'm going to build this thing, but I'm not just building this for myself. I'm going to build, make it work, and I'll leave something for the next generation. So that is you creating with the intent of legacy. Do not fear, not do not fear, and don't let fear dictate the scale of your contribution. You're not scared of um, putting in big efforts. Don't allow fear to make you give in small. Don't let fear make you pour out just a little of yourself. So when you're making investments, when you're taking risk, when you're building your business, when you're making trying to make it in life, when you're trying to make impact, do not allow fear make you put less, into it. And to exist deeply, presence is the ultimate act of courage that you need to deploy, right? So you need that presence. The presence is deep from within, right? You allow yourself to be present for yourself, and then you begin to make courageous decisions, that would allow you exist deeply, allow you live life well. And you should be fully here every moment, be here fully. Do not die wondering who you could have become. That is a very, very pitiable state to be in. The state of wondering at the end of your life who you could have become. Oh, if I had gone to school, if I had taken this course, if I had gone for my maybe masters or PhD, if you want it, if you want it or need it, if I had done this, if I had started this business, if I had persevered, if I had done this and that, who would I have become? That is not a very good place to be in, because then you begin to wonder what could have been. So do not die wondering who you could have become. Okay, that's a very big tragedy. In fact, the is I call it the tragedy of unrealized potential, and it is the only true failure. No matter what it is you go through in life, no matter what it is life throws at you, if you are able to persevere, if you're able to keep going, and you just don't give up, somehow, someday, you'll come out of it. You'd have a breakthrough, right? Even if you don't have a very big break, you learn from those situations. But if you allow yourself not to try at all, I mean, that's when you have potentials unrealized. And someone was saying something about the fact that the richest place on earth is the graveyard, right? I've forgotten who mentioned that, but I think it was in a book where you mentioned the richest place is the graveyard. The richest place is the graveyard, where you find books not written, you find talents not utilized, you find a lot of people dying, you know, without their potential. You don't want to you don't want to put yourself in that spot. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. That's not a good place to be. Don't underutilize your potential and let your potential be fully expressed. So to wrap up, I would just like to mention that if you're gonna be here, you should be here fully. If you're gonna live on this planet fully and live well. If you're gonna be alive, live well, live truly. If you're gonna love, love deeply. If you're gonna build, build boldly. And if you're gonna be there for people, show up for them. Life should not be lived halfway, and you should not die halfway either. So do not live a half life and do not die a half death. I hope you've gotten a few push in the direction of your purpose, in the direction of you living, just to make you live a better life. Until I see you in the next video, take good care of yourself and have a fantastic day ahead. Bye.